All right, for what feels like forever, the world of AI has basically been a one company show, right? NVIDIA has been king. But a new battle is brewing. A really powerful challenger has been quietly building its arsenal for over a decade. And now, they're ready to make their move. So in this explainer, we're going to break down on exactly how Google is taking on the king. So if you ask the reigning champ, they seem, well, completely unfazed. Check this out. This is NVIDIA's official statement from just a few days ago, and it is pure confidence. I mean, they're delighted by Google's success, but then they drop the hammer with a clear message. NVIDIA is a generation ahead of the industry. Basically, thanks for playing, but we're still the best. But you know, talk is cheap. If you actually look past the public statements and follow the money, well, the money is telling a very different story. Behind the scenes, there's a huge shift happening, and we're talking about a shift that's being measured in billions of dollars. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's look at the actual evidence and figure out how this challenger suddenly appeared on the scene to threaten a leader that honestly, most people thought was untouchable. And this chart right here, it tells you everything you need to know about how the market is reacting. Just look at that green line. That's the companies in Google's TPU supply chain. You can see it clear as day. Since the middle of 2025, their value has absolutely skyrocketed, leaving the supply chains for NVIDIA and the others in the dust. And look, this isn't just hype or speculation. This is cold, hard cash, and it's being fueled by huge AI labs like Anthropic and Meta signing on the dotted line. So, what is this secret weapon that Google's bringing to the fight? Well, it's time to meet the Tensor Processing Unit. You've probably heard of it, the TPU. Okay, so a TPU is what's known as an ASIC. That stands for Application-Specific Integrated Circuit, which is a mouthful, I know. But here's what it means in simple terms. It's a chip that Google built from the ground up for one job and one job only, to crush AI workloads. By being so specialized, it's just incredibly efficient at what it does. And you gotta understand, this thing is no overnight success. Just look at this timeline. Google was kicking around the idea for custom AI hardware all the way back in 2006. Then, by 2013, the problem got so big they realized, okay, we have to build our own chips to do AI at the scale we want. The first TPUs were up and running in their own data centers back in 2016, but that was just for them. It's only now, after almost 2 decades of work, that they're finally selling them to everybody else. This has been a very long game for Google. This quote right here, this is the key to understanding Google's entire strategy. Systems matter more than microarchitecture. See, their big advantage isn't just about making a faster chip. It's about designing the entire system from the ground up, the hardware, the software, the networking, so everything works together in perfect harmony. Think about it this way. NVIDIA sells you amazing car parts. Google is selling you a fully tuned Formula One race car. And that right there brings us to what might be the real battleground in this war. The actual all-in cost of doing AI at a massive, planetary scale. We're talking about something called TCO, or total cost of ownership. It's a really simple but super powerful idea. It's like buying a car, right? The price you see on the window is just the start. You've also got gas, insurance, repairs, the whole shebang. TCO is the same for an AI system. It's not just what you pay for the chips, it's the insane electricity bills for power and cooling over the entire life of the system. And here it is. This is the headline number that is sending absolute shockwaves through the industry. For outside customers, the total cost of ownership for Google's newest TPU system can be up to 41% cheaper than NVIDIA's best stuff. 41%. That is a massive number. And this chart just makes that difference painfully clear. On the left, that tall bar, that's the cost per hour to run NVIDIA's top system. And on the right, that's the cost for Google's TPU. I mean, the gap is just enormous. And you have to imagine, when you multiply that difference by hundreds of thousands of chips, running all day, every day, you're talking about billions with a B, billions of dollars in savings. Okay, so you're probably asking, how is that even possible? Well, this is where we need to separate the marketing hype from the real world. On the one hand, you have marketed flops. That's the theoretical top speed of a chip. It's like a car company telling you their engine has 500 horsepower. But then you have effective flops, which is the actual performance you get on the road. It's the power that actually makes it to the wheels, and that's the number that really matters. And this is where it gets crazy. When you start looking at the cost based on that real-world effective performance, the TPU's advantage just becomes staggering. Look at this chart.
It shows the cost per unit of effective performance. Even if you're only getting 20% efficiency out of the TPU, it's still cheaper than running NVIDIA's chip at a higher 30% efficiency. The value proposition is just undeniable. But here's the real kicker. This is the aha moment in this whole story. OpenAI, right? One of NVIDIA's absolute biggest customers. They reportedly saved something like 30% on their entire fleet of NVIDIA chips without buying a single TPU. Think about that. Just the threat of a real competitor coming to market was enough to make NVIDIA slash its prices. That is what real market disruption looks like.
Okay, so let's look at a real-world example of how this is all playing out. Let's talk about the massive, groundbreaking deal Google just signed with the AI lab Anthropic. Get ready for this number, 1 million. That is how many TPU chips Anthropic is planning to get its hands on through this deal. It's a scale that is it's almost hard to wrap your head around. And this isn't just some number on a PowerPoint slide. This is what 1 million TPUs looks like. You are looking at an aerial shot of a brand new, absolutely massive data center being built from scratch, just for Anthropic. So how in the world did Google pull this off so fast? Well, they got incredibly creative with the deal structure. It's basically a 3-part play. First, Google itself steps in with a financial backstop, like an IOU. Second, they bring in a specialized neo-cloud provider to handle all the tricky on-site logistics. And third, and this is the genius part, they partner with a former crypto miner who already has the buildings and, more importantly, the massive power infrastructure ready to go.
And why does this matter so much? Because this whole creative setup lets Google get around its own biggest bottleneck, the super slow bureaucratic nightmare of securing land, power contracts, and building new data centers. They've basically created an express lane to get their best tech into the hands of their most important customers, like right now.
Which, of course, brings us to the million-dollar question. Or maybe the trillion-dollar question. Is NVIDIA's time on the throne finally coming to an end? You see, for years, NVIDIA has been protected by this incredible defense called the CUDA moat. CUDA is their software platform. It's the language that basically everyone in AI learned to use to program GPUs. And because everyone uses it, it created this powerful lock-in, making it almost impossible for any competitor to even get a foot in the door. But today, that moat is under siege from all sides. You've got top AI labs like Anthropic and Meta buying TPUs. You've got the world's best models, Gemini 3, Cloud 4.5, being trained on TPUs. You have that massive, up to 41% cost advantage. And maybe most importantly, Google isn't just keeping this tech for themselves anymore. They are out on the open market, selling hardware directly. The entire game has fundamentally changed. So it really looks like the era of a single undisputed king might be over. And with tech giants like Google now forging their own weapons and selling them to the highest bidder, it really makes you wonder, is the true battle for AI supremacy just getting started?